What comes to mind when you think of ancient Japan? Samurai warriors, imposing castles, and powerful rulers. Well, you're picturing the Shogunate Era, a period spanning nearly 700 years, where military leaders, not emperors, held the real power. This was a time of epic battles, strict social order, and incredible cultural blossoming. So, how did this system rise? How did it work? And what led to its eventual downfall? Join us as we journey back in time to explore the age of the shoguns. The story begins in the late 12th century. For centuries, the emperor had been the supreme ruler of Japan, at least in name, but in reality, powerful clans were constantly fighting for influence. After years of brutal civil war, one clan, the Minamoto, emerged victorious. Their leader Minamoto no Yoritomo didn't depose the emperor. Instead, he created a new system. In 1185, he established the Kamakura Shogunate, a military government, and had the emperor grant him the title of shogun, which means great general. This was a pivotal moment. Power had officially shifted from the imperial court in Kyoto to the military headquarters in Kamakura. The emperor became a revered spiritual and symbolic figurehead, while the shogun became the de facto ruler of Japan, commanding the armies, controlling the land, and making the laws. So, how did the shogun actually govern the country? Japan, under the shoguns, was a feudal society, much like medieval Europe. The shogun was at the very top of the pyramid. Below him were the daimyō, powerful regional lords who controlled vast territories called domains. Think of them as dukes or barons. Each daimyō commanded their own army of samurai warriors. The samurai were the elite warrior class, bound by a strict code of honor known as bushido. They pledged their loyalty and military service to their daimyō in exchange for land, a stipend of rice, and social status. This created a decentralized but hierarchical system. While the shogun was the ultimate authority, the daimyō had significant autonomy within their own domains, managing local governance, collecting taxes, and administering justice. It was a complex web of loyalty and obligation, all held together by the shogun's military might. The Shogunate Era wasn't one single, continuous period of rule. It was defined by three major shogunates, each with its own distinct character. First, we have the Kamakura Shogunate, which lasted from 1185 to 1333. This was the birth of warrior rule, establishing the foundations of the samurai-dominated system. It's famous for successfully repelling to Mongol invasions, a feat that cemented the samurai's reputation as fearsome defenders of Japan. Next came the Ashikaga Shogunate, also known as the Muromashi period, from 1336 to 1573. This era was very different. The Ashikaga shoguns struggled to maintain control over the increasingly powerful daimyō. This weakness led to a century of near-constant civil war known as the Sengoku period, or the Warring States period. Ambitious daimyō fought each other relentlessly for land and power. It was a chaotic and violent time, but it also saw the rise of legendary figures like Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi, Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, the three great unifiers of Japan. Their efforts paved the way for the third and final dynasty, the Tokugawa established by Tokugawa Ieyasu in 1603. This shogunate ushered in an era of unprecedented peace and stability that lasted for over 250 years, known as the Edo period. The Tokugawa rulers were masters of control. They learned from the mistakes of the Ashikaga and implemented brilliant strategies to keep the daimyō in check. How did the Tokugawa maintain such a long peace? Through a combination of clever laws and strict social control. One of their most effective policies was the Sankinkatai system, or alternate attendance. This policy required every daimyō to spend every other year in the capital city of Ida, modern-day Tokyo, and when they returned to their own domains, they had to leave their wives and heirs behind in Edo. As the constant travel was incredibly expensive for the daimyō, draining their finances and preventing them from building up enough wealth to challenge the shogun. It also turned Edo into a bustling, vibrant metropolis. Society itself was rigidly structured into four main classes. At the top were the samurai, the ruling warrior elite. Below them were the farmers, who were considered the backbone of the economy because they produced the nation's food. Then came the artisans, who created goods like swords, pottery, and textiles. At the bottom of the hierarchy were the merchants. While they were often the wealthiest, they were seen as unproductive because they profited from the labor of others. This strict hierarchy was meant to ensure social stability and prevent upheaval. Mobility between classes was virtually impossible. With peace came prosperity and a remarkable cultural explosion. The Edo period was a golden age for Japanese arts. With no wars to fight, the samurai class turned to administration and scholarship. Education became more widespread, and literacy rates soared. Cities like Edo, Osaka, and Kyoto flourished, becoming centers of commerce and culture. The growing wealth of the merchant class fueled demand for new forms of entertainment. This led to the development of kabuki theater, with its dramatic makeup and elaborate performances, and bunraku, a sophisticated form of puppet theater. Woodblock printing, or ukiyo-e, became a popular art form, depicting scenes of city life, beautiful courtesans, and famous landscapes, like Hokusai's The Great Wave off Kanagawa. It was a time of immense creativity and refinement. Another key policy of the Tokugawa shogunate was national isolation, known as sakai. Worried about the growing influence of European traders and missionaries, particularly the spread of Christianity, which they saw as a threat to their authority, the shoguns decided to close Japan off from the outside world. By the 1630s, Japanese people were forbidden from leaving the country, and most foreigners were expelled. Foreign trade was severely restricted, allowed only with the Dutch and Chinese through the single port of Nagasaki under strict government supervision. This policy of isolation was designed to maintain political stability and protect Japan's unique culture from foreign influence. For over 2 centuries, Japan developed almost entirely on its own terms. Showa brought this long-lasting era of peace and warrior rule to an end. It was a combination of internal and external pressures. Internally, the rigid social system began to break down. The samurai, who were paid in rice, struggled financially as the economy shifted toward cash, while the merchants they looked down upon grew wealthier and more influential. This created social tension. Peasant uprisings also became more frequent due to famine and high taxes. The final blow, however, came from outside. In 1853, American Commodore Matthew Perry sailed a fleet of heavily armed black ships into Edo Bay. He delivered a letter from the U.S. president demanding that Japan open its ports to foreign trade. The shogunate, with its outdated military, was powerless to resist. The treaties they were forced to sign were seen as humiliating and a sign of weakness. This event shattered Japan's isolation and exposed the shogunate's inability to protect the nation. Anti-shogunate sentiment surged, particularly among powerful domains in the south, who rallied under the slogan San Jiji, meaning revere the emperor, expel the barbarians. The final shogun was forced to abdicate, and in 1868, power was officially returned to the emperor in what became known as the Meiji Restoration. The age of the shogun was over. The legacy of the Shogunate era is profound and can still be felt in Japan today. It established many of the foundations of Japanese governance and social structure. The long peace of the Edo period allowed for the development of a unified national culture and a bustling commercial economy, which provided a strong base for Japan's rapid modernization in the late 19th century. The samurai code of Bushido, with its emphasis on discipline, loyalty, and honor, has been absorbed into the national character, influencing everything from business practices to martial arts. The Shogunate Era shaped Japan's political culture, its appreciation for order and authority, and its unique artistic traditions. It was a complex and fascinating period that transformed Japan and set the stage for its emergence as a modern world power. Thanks for watching our deep dive into the Shogunate era. If you found this journey through Japanese history interesting, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content. Let us know in the comments which part of the Shogunate's history you find most fascinating. See you in the next video!